What's going on, everyone? So the Lakers obviously need a center, and we will see what ends up happening. All of the reports seem to be Bismack Biyombo or Christian Wood. Obviously, either of those guys would be a great addition to this Lakers roster. The Lakers do have two open roster spots, so it's even possible that maybe, let's say they get Christian Wood, right? They land Wood, they look at it and they go, well, he's more of a power forward than a center. So maybe they go and they still get a guy like Myers Leonard. Even if they don't get Christian Wood or Bismack Biyombo, there's still plenty of options out there. And like I said, a Myers Leonard. Maybe they go more of a veteran route, bring in like a DeMarcus Cousins, Dwight Howard, Hassan Whiteside is somebody that I'm really keen on, and I would love to see kind of bring in. I think him and Anthony Davis as a defensive duo would be great. But outside of that, the other position that you look at and you go, the Lakers really have a need for is, again, center position, obviously. And then the other position would be the shooting guard position. Now, they're not like super desperate at the shooting guard position, right? They have Austin Reeves as their starting. You guys like Max Christie, and you have plenty of other guys that could kind of fill in a pinch if need be. You got Taurean Prince, you have D'Angelo Russell, and then you even have guys like Gabe Vincent if you had to slide over. You got Shafino, you got Maxwell Lewis. You got guys that could fill in a pinch if need be. But the Lakers could definitely use some shooting just regardless, right? Like the Lakers definitely did add some quality shooting guys, right? Gabe Vincent, he struggled last year in the regular season. He was great in the playoffs, and he's a guy that is more than capable of shooting 38% from three if he can get back to that. And then you have Austin Reeves, D'Lo, who are both 40% three-point shooters. Max Christie was like 42% last year, although small sample size. But if he can be close to that this year, that would be huge. Taurean Prince is another 38% three-point shooter. Like, the Lakers have guys that could shoot the three ball. But as we've seen, you could use some more shooting. And one name that is still out there on the market is Svi, who was on the Lakers and was drafted by the Lakers. And many people never wanted the Lakers to get rid of him. Like, many people wanted the Lakers to keep him. He was a guy that really had some potential, had some upside. He was, 6'7" in height, but he also wasn't like great, right? Like, he's 6'7" at height, but he's got an even smaller wingspan. He's 6'5" wingspan. He's not the most athletic, not the most quickest, not the best at like kind of creating his own shot. He has his limitations, right? But he is still a solid contributor. He's still a guy that can come in and provide just quality minutes. This is a guy for Charlotte, averaged 10 points per game. He's a guy that shoots very well from three. This is a guy that shot 42.5% last year between the Knicks and the Charlotte Hornets. He shot 60% for the Knicks, but it was like a very small sample size because the Knicks almost never played him. But for Charlotte, he actually got 22 and a half minutes. He played 19 games for them. And in those 19 games, he shot 40.4%. So, and he shot that on almost 5 attempts. So he was getting volume and he was shooting at a 40% clip. That's really good. Really good. Now, he has had his struggling years. He's had his good years and he's had his bad years, right? So the year with Detroit, after the Lakers ended up unloading him, he actually shot 50% from them, and then he shot 40% the following year on 5.1 attempts, which were the most attempts of his career. And that was in the 2019-2020 season. Very good, right? 40.4%, which is the same as last year. But after that, he kind of started to have a bit of a decline. In Detroit in the 2020-2021 season, he shot 33%. OKC, he shot just under 34%. And then in Toronto, he shot 30%. And so that's kind of where he's kind of been a journeyman, and he's kind of been this player that's been kind of tacked on to all these trades and stuff like that. But I do think he's a guy that if you're relying heavily on, you're probably the Charlotte Hornets, right? You're not in a good position. You're not winning anything. But as like your 15th man, I think he could do worse, right? Like, this is a guy that, again, could play the small forward, could play the shooting guard position, shoots the three ball at 40% clip. He's still only 26 years old, so he's not some like old guy. He's a guy that's still young enough to come in and kind of fit what the Lakers are doing here with this youth movement of like 26, 27-year-olds. And again, he's limited, right? He is an NBA player, though. Like, he's not Cole Schwider in the sense of, like, he can't do anything else, right? Like, he can still make plays. He can still, defend to an extent, right? Like, he's not somebody that you really want to rely heavily on as far as like a defensive savant type guy. But he does have a career 114.7 defensive rating, which is slightly better than league average. League average is around 115. However, last year he was not very good. Last year he was 117.8. But the year before that with Toronto, he was 112.7, which is fantastic. That is really good. But if he can he just be league average defensively? Right? Like, you don't need him to be this world beater. And with Darvin Ham and the way that he's able to really get guys to buy in on the defensive end, really get guys to buy in, period. He's a guy that can hustle, that can make plays, that can, just provide some decent shooting. And he's not going to get 20 plus minutes a game. He's a guy that some nights he's not going to play, some nights he's going to play. And if he does play, he's probably only getting like 10 or 15 minutes unless he's hot, right? If he's got the hot hand, keep him in. Keep feeding the hot hand. But he's not a guy that the Lakers are going to lean heavily on. And he's also a guy that I've seen lots of Laker fans scream at the rooftops to bring back. For the last, few years, even before I was doing the YouTube thing, on Bleacher Report or forums and stuff like that, people are like, man, we should really bring Svi back, right? And I don't hate the idea at all. I think he's a guy that can provide something that the Lakers need, which at the 15th roster spot, that's what you're looking for. He's a guy that still has some upside. It's not going to cost you anything, right? Low risk, high reward. If he's great and knocking down three balls, you find him some minutes. He's a guy that you can waive if you need to, right? Because you're probably bringing him in on a non-guaranteed deal. So what it does is it gives you a couple options. One, like I said, he's great, and now you just got a 40%, maybe even better. If he can be 42% like last year on like four attempts per game, it's pretty good, right? That's really good for the Lakers. So that's the upside. That's the potential there. And then just be league average defensively. Now you have a legit 3-and-D style player. He's a guy that I think would play off of LeBron well, because he is a guy that is really good off the ball, a guy that is really good at cutting and getting to the rim, a guy that just, plays basketball, right? And so I think that he could really have an impact in those regards. The worst case is he's a guy that you waive, and it doesn't hurt you in any way, or he's a guy that you could package into a trade, right? You have him on a non-guaranteed deal, you could package him into a trade and add a little, and gives a little extra salary boost. There you go. Or if, somebody in the buyout market becomes available and you're like, oh, we really like this guy, sorry, Svi, then there you go. You unload him and you're good. You're fine. This is a guy that, again, can come in and provide double digits on any given night. You're talking about your 15th roster spot. Most teams don't even carry the 15th roster spot until they're getting ready to get into the playoffs, right? Most teams never even play their 15th man. The Lakers probably won't play their 15th man. But it's nice to have a guy that in a pinch, if you needed to, he can come in and provide some quality minutes. Svi is your 15th guy. It's pretty good. If he's your 6th, 7th guy, it's probably not the best case scenario, right? Just based on how he's fared. But look, he's a guy that's been in demand, right? Like, as much of a journeyman as he's been, right? And, he's only been in the league 5 seasons. But still, for him being the kind of journeyman playing from the Lakers to Detroit to OKC, Toronto, the Knicks, and Charlotte, which is 6 teams, part of that was like, I believe he was traded like 3 times in 1 year. So that's something. But outside of that, he's still a guy that's in demand and has played everywhere he's gone. Right? He played in 39 games for the Lakers in 2018. Then, when they traded him to Detroit, he played 56 games, and he started in half of them. And then he played 36 games before being traded to OKC. OKC, he played in 30 games. And then in Toronto, he played in 56 games. And then with the Knicks, in the short time he was with the Knicks, he played 13 games. And in the short time he was with the Hornets, he played 19 games. So every single spot. So it's not like he's a guy that teams are acquiring via trade and just either waiving him or sitting him at the end of the bench, right? Like, no, this is a guy that teams are trading for and actually giving him minutes. Like I said, for Charlotte, he was getting 22 and a half minutes, right? Toronto, he was getting 13 minutes. OKC, he was getting 23 minutes. Detroit, he was getting 18 minutes. Detroit again, he was getting 23 minutes. So, again, this is a guy that is getting minutes. And for OKC, he actually had a great year for OKC, if you guys remember that. That was the 2020-2021 season in which he played 30 games for them. He split between OKC and Detroit, and he played 23 minutes for them. He got 9.4 attempts per game, and in that, he shot 40% from the field, which that isn't great, but that's because more than half of his shots were from 3. And he also, he was 50% from 2-point range. And had a 52.3% EFG. He was rough from the free throw line at 70%, but he is a career like 80% free throw shooter. And he averaged 10.3 points per game. Right? So this is a guy that for OKC averaged 10 points, 2 assists, 3 rebounds. So he was a 10, 3, and 2 guy for OKC. If that's your 15th man, that's not a bad spot to be in. If he can be just a 40%, even if he's just like a 38% 3-point shooter, right? Like let's not put crazy expectations on him of him like being a 40 to 43% free throw shooter or 3-point shooter. I mean, don't get me wrong, that'd be really nice if he could be, but even if he's not, who cares? Who cares? Right? Like, as long as he's 38%, that's really good. That gives you another legit 3-point shooter that you can put in a pinch at any time, and he can make an impact. I don't hate the idea. That's me personally, but as always, I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree? Disagree? Somewhere in between? Have you feel whatever your thoughts are? I'd love